Welcome to Black Enterprises Women of Power Tech Session, the next big thing, emerging technologies. I'm Samara, Lynn, tech journalist and editor. And this is a very fitting session since all of you probably know, just very recently, Star Trek's Captain Kirk blasted off into the edge of space with the latest in emerging technology, private spacecraft funded by business moguls. Very interesting and quite a controversial subject, but speaking of business moguls, we have two ladies here who have reached incredible heights of their own in their careers. Please welcome Leah McGowen Hare, VP Trailblazer, Community and Trailhead Evangelism at Salesforce, and Desirée Gosby, Vice President, Emerging Technology at Walmart Global Tech. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Thank you. Well, I guess we should just jump in. So I guess just to get started, can you each describe your roles at your companies? Leah, let's start with you. What do you do? What is your role at Salesforce?
Well, first of all, once again, thank you for having me. And I am at Salesforce. I've been at Salesforce since 2009. I am currently the VP of Trailblazer Community and Engagement. So I am in charge of our community, the one, user group meetings, all of the community that really is the heart of Trailhead of Salesforce. And I also work with workforce development. We have a workforce development program called Pathfinders, where we actually recruit people all the way from community college, train them, get them certified, and place them into jobs. So I have a lot of different plates that I do, as well as I host a show called Leading Through Change on our new streaming service called Salesforce Plus.
Wonderful. And Desirée, what is your role over there at Walmart Global Tech?
Yes, I lead emerging technology within the global tech organization at Walmart. I've actually been at Walmart, I'm relatively new, about 11 months now. And, my role is really taking a look at some of the newer technologies from a Walmart perspective and really figuring out how do we start to operationalize those technologies, whether it's things like conversational AI or augmented reality, to really enable the different teams across Walmart to create new and innovative experiences for our customers, those next generation experiences. So it's a new role for me. I'm very excited in terms of getting to work with the new technology and really making it work for all of our customers and also our associates in our stores at scale.
That's really interesting. So Desirée, what was your path in getting to the role that you're currently at?
Yeah, it's interesting. So my ultimately, my background, I graduated from school, university with a degree in math and computer science, and I worked, at a number of different companies in the software space, and starting off things like knowledge management at IBM, and then moving to my previous company before Walmart was Intuit, and really focusing on innovation and really looking at. I started off actually in mobile and looking at that, and really looking at how to really operationalize those things, create different services and different capabilities, learning about the business, and then really focusing on how do we start to think about the customer and how we bring these new experiences to bear. And I've been in this space for the better part of the innovation space for the better part of 20 years. As I started to look for something that I wanted to do new, it was really and the opportunity that I had at Walmart was really taking everything that I'd learned over the past 20 or so years and figuring out how to do that at the scale that Walmart has, given the size of the company. So it's a pretty interesting route, but at the end of the day, I always say I'm an engineer at heart. And I like to learn about new technologies, to build things. I still write code, although I have a great team that does that now. But it's that, as well as just the curiosity that I have that I use to really inform what it is that I do and how it is that I got to where it is that I am today.
Awesome, an engineer at heart. All right. Well, Leah, what about your story? How did you get to where you are with Salesforce?
Well, first of all, I just need to acknowledge Desiree. I am right there with you. I still sneak and look at code all the time. Once you're part of that, you're engineer for life, computer science
Uh,
for life.
can't
Um,
stop.
I too started off my undergrad as computer science, and I graduated back in the days when there was no technology field. Like there was no industry tech. There was no Black Girls Code. There was no Girls Who Code back in the 90s, early 90s. So it was very much new industry. I remember even joining NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers, and having to write an essay as to why would they accept me into their space, because computer science just wasn't well known at that time. So I did start off in computer science. I was a consultant for Anderson Consulting, now known as Accenture. So I did many years in the consulting industry. Then I moved in and I became a software developer for a company called PeopleSoft. So, as my journey went through as a consultant, I was very in tune. I knew mainframe. I developed systems on mainframe technology, JCL, writing COBOL, batch programs. And then I saw the change of technology, the new emerging technologies going from mainframe into client server. So I was a software developer for PeopleSoft, and it was a client server solution. It was on-prem ERP system. So I knew all about the different servers, from our database server to our app servers to our web servers. And then I moved into cloud. So after PeopleSoft, I went back to school, got my master's in education and technology. And while at PeopleSoft, I had moved from being a software engineer into training. I really wanted to connect with people more, but I didn't want to leave my technology. So I found this great area of being a technical trainer, which, my goodness, I should have read the tea leaves. My father was a professor. My mother was a teacher. I ultimately was becoming my parents, just in a different context, because I was first generation corporate America. So I became a technical trainer, went to grad school, got my master's in that space, and then had my own company for a little while, as it paid for me to go through grad school with no debt. So I was very grateful for that experience. And then I joined Salesforce, and I joined Salesforce as a technical trainer. And that was such a great learning ground for me to learn about cloud computing. It's a very different architecture, developing in a multi-tenant environment versus developing it on an on-prem resources, on-prem database. So learning the different technology and how to develop in those two different spaces was really great. So I learned that so that I could be a teacher. I always tell people, if you want to learn something, teach it, because that is the best way of learning it. So I did that for 7 years at Salesforce, training our developers, from our employees to as well as our customers, how to build apps on our proprietary, using our proprietary language and on our platform. And then I moved more into a strategic learning role and ultimately became an executive. And that was not my goal. I really thought I was meant to be an educator, which I still see, like I still am an educator in all that I do. But going through the whole corporate America, and I would not call it a path, I would call it more of a rock climb trajectory, moving through this space has been a great learning lesson in its own. So it's not been a direct path to here. It's been, stepping out on faith and not in fear a lot of times, trying new things, having a bigger vision of myself than I might have had initially. All of those things have ultimately led to where I am now. And where I'll be tomorrow, don't know.
Wow. So two engineers have seen the evolution of tech, in the corporate space. So this is going to be a really great conversation. I think what I'd like to know from both of you, and let's continue with you, Leah, first. What do you do? What's your typical day like?
There is no typical day. It totally can go from jumping on a plane and flying to Indianapolis because we're filming a new Trailblazer series about people who have transformed their life using our technology, to sitting at my computer all day, back to back to back to back Zooms. It totally depends. We just had our first in-person user conference since the pandemic. And leading up to that, my days were very different. Going on site for rehearsals, going on site for COVID testing so that I could be on site for the actual event. It is such a whirlwind. I mean, the majority of my time is spent in front of a computer, meeting with my team, meeting with some of our customers, meeting with our community members. Um, I really try to carve out space in my day for just some space to do some strategic thinking, because you can get caught up in the to do, and you don't give yourself that space to be creative and strategic, and then you just become an executor, and it's very easy for that to happen. So all that to say, there's no typical day. The only consistency is I got to get my kids to school. I got to feed my kids. I got to, all of those life things are consistencies. But what happens in between totally depends on what's going on. So for now, through the end of the year, should be pretty quiet. No travel, no events. And besides doing panels and things like that. But otherwise, pretty consistent in front of my computer.
Oh, is that all? That sounds like an amazing like array of responsibilities and tasks. And I've been to a couple of Salesforce's events like Cloudforce, and they are amazing. I mean, Salesforce goes all out. So I can imagine the planning it takes to put on those events. So Desirée, what about you? What's your typical day look like?
Yeah, well, I can certainly relate to the back-to-back Zoom meetings all day. So I think a lot of us are going through that. But yeah, it really does, span the gamut, and depends on where we are in terms of the development life cycle. But at the end of the day, I really look at what it is that I do as my job is to help my team and to remove roadblocks for them. So a typical day, I could be spending that time just meeting with the engineers, understanding some of the issues or problems that they're going through, and figuring out how I can help them to move faster. I could be meeting with stakeholders to really understand what are their problems, and listening to them and understanding some of the strategies that are coming up, and then how we might be able to partner together to deliver the right solution for the customer. Some of it's spending time actually with customers and just listening to them and understanding their pain points and their problems, and understanding where we might be able to apply some of the work that we're doing to create new products and solutions for them as well. I could, be spending time in the stores, and did that, about a week ago, and just really understanding and talking with some of the associates within the store, understanding some of the processes that they're using, and then again, thinking through how technology can help to make them, their lives easier and make them, more productive. So it's any number of things, that could, that makes up my day. And I definitely resonate with, also just carving out time to really synthesize all the things, all the inputs that are coming in, and just to think strategically, to really think about what is that thing that we should be focusing on next, and then spending some time, working through the strategies on that. So beyond that, for in a typical day, I do carve out time to make sure that I read, to make sure that I do a little bit of exercise and have to take care of myself. So, because it can get pretty easy to just, sit in front of a computer, all day long. I have teams in Israel, I have teams in the US, and teams in Bangalore. So it spans all those time frames. And making sure that I carve out time just for myself is really important as well.
And to synthesize all those inputs coming in. That is so spoken like a true computer science engineer. So I just want to put that right there. And since both of you are engineers, let's get a little geeky right now. What constitutes, in your opinions, emerging technology? Leah, what's new and exciting for you?
For emerging technologies, I think generally it's used to describe new technology, but in reality, it could be technology that has been in the lab for a while and is now emerging into a more of a prominence from a background of non-existence or obscurity. So it's now coming into fruition, because a lot of these technologies have been happening for a while, and now people are just getting to know about them. I mean, even if it's like virtual assistants, everybody knows Alexa now, but it's been in the lab for a while. And I think I'm excited. Technologies get me really excited. If I could spend my day testing and playing and problem solving and debugging, I would. But I think personally for me, some of the things that I'm really excited about from an emerging technology standpoint, personally, I'm excited about the high quality of online education, because what I'm seeing is that the access to learning how to code or learning about new technologies is totally being democratized. There's over, I think, want to say over 2,000 um, classes on or programmers on Stack Overflow who are out there and willing to help. And there's many hours on YouTube dedicated by professors from top universities teaching things. So that really gets me excited that we're giving this information to people so that they can skill up themselves. It is accessible. It is out there. That gets me excited to know that that information is no longer sort of guarded and very difficult to get to. So we can start onboarding more people into the technical space.
That's a great point. I mean, even like tools like GitHub. I mean, you can get a lot of snippets of code if you're learning, and you're right. There's a lot more tools for people to get that hands-on experience than there were, like, say, like 10, 15 years ago. So yeah, that's a great point.
And shameless plug our free online learning platform, Trailhead, where you can learn all about all of our catalogs of technology.
There you go. And Salesforce has been such a innovator as far as emerging tech. I mean, they were the first to really have this like massive intra office like text platform and chat platform. So yeah, definitely. Salesforce has always embraced a lot of the emerging technology. It's been quick to put that out there.
Yes.
Desiree, what about you? What's exciting you in the world of emerging tech?
Yeah, it's it's a lot of things, and some of the things that Leah mentioned. So definitely conversational AI, and starting to really move towards how it is that we could truly create these digital assistants that go with you, and moving to experiences that are less sort of do-it-yourself experiences and much more do it with me, do it for me types of experiences. And in particular, for our customers, how do we meet them not only not only at whether it's in their home or on the go, but also in the store, which actually turns out to be a really hard problem. But it really requires us to think very differently about what does it mean to be spatially aware. What does it mean to help guide someone through the store. So that's actually really exciting. And how do you take that technology and allow our employees or associates to take advantage of it as well. I'm also really excited about augmented reality, virtual reality. That's a whole world of mixed reality, and especially with more and more people actually shopping online. How do we start to make it easier for people to actually, try before you buy, and get the confidence to see what something might look like virtual try on, before they buy something, or, looking at a piece of furniture, an item, and what it might actually look like in your home, and extending that, beyond that to do things like, product suggestions. There's all sorts of things that, that we can do. Again, these are technologies that have been around for a while, especially, in the gaming space, but now it's starting to become much more mainstream. And there's so much that we can do, and that Walmart's actually, doing in this space. And it's only growing. The way I look at emerging tech is really looking at our customers and what their problems are, and then how can we start to really leverage some of the things that might be newer to Walmart, to really solve those problems in a new and different way, to really create an experience that that might be unexpected. I'm also really excited about it's really also from an emerging tech perspective. Looking at some of these newer experiences that we're creating is also changing how it is that we think about developing experiences. So I'm really excited about things like low code or no code solutions, where we can actually get other, all members of the team, actually, whether they're designers or product managers, actually working with us to build the solution and making it easier for them in addition to the engineers. So it's a lot of really, interesting stuff that's on the horizon for us. So.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, Desiree, I think you hit on a great point. Is like that low code, no code is also a great way of bringing people into this tech space who may not be, hardcore developers, but helping them get their foot into this tech space is so huge. And there's so many more platforms that are having these low code, no code solutions available.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Can you just for our audience, Leah, can you just touch on what the low code, no code means? Does that mean that you could have people from marketing or from sales or for looking involved in the coding process?
For example, on the Salesforce platform, you can create and customize an entire app with no code, all point and click. So it's creating these features and these tools that allow you to participate in creating in the tech space without having to code. And, a lot of our solutions, 80% of what you need is no code, low code. It's that 20% where the customization and you start getting in the heavy coding part is where you bring in the hardcore coders. But yeah, you can build an app today, no code. And that to me opens up the view for people who didn't see themselves in this space. Like there's a stereotype that, in order to be part of tech, you got to have a comp sci degree, or you got to be a hardcore Python developer, a hardcore Java developer. And while yes, those skills do serve you well, there's still room for other people to come in and participate in the creation of a product or an app in a very impactful and meaningful way.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what that means is, let's say for Black women who are, are tuned into here, they want to advance their career, they want to get into tech. It seems like there are opportunities, even if they don't come from a coding background. Let's say they're HR specialists, let's say they're in marketing, for them to get on board with building apps inside of a company and helping to deploy and this emerging tech. So I would imagine, how do both of you feel about diverse voices heard throughout your company? It seems like with this low code, no code, it does give an opportunity for diverse voices to have an input on the emerging tech and apps that are implemented and distributed. Is that something you would agree with? Are there other ways that to get diverse voices on board so that they're involved in the emerging technology coming out of both of your companies? Leah, you want to address that first?
Sure. I mean, I think absolutely one of the ways is definitely to making tools accessible to all, right? That's the first part. Education is key. It's just democratizing access to learning these skills. Also, it is important representation matters. It is important people see people like Desirée, like myself, to see you. We all, that saying, like, in order to achieve it, you got to see it. So knowing that there is space out there and there are folks out here representing for you and creating space for more of us to come to the table is so, so very important. When I came up, there was nothing. I mean, I think about, it was older white men, hard coding COBOL, like there was nothing. There weren't even women for that matter. So it did not deter me. And sometimes I told people, sometimes I think it served it well because I didn't have anybody to try to emulate or copy. So the only thing I could do was be myself when I was moving through and that's all because they're always like, you're so authentic. I'm like, well, that's pretty much what I know how to do is be myself.
That's all I know.
That's all I know. There was nobody that I could try to emulate or replicate. Right. But I think it's really important that voices are brought to the table, particularly in these emerging technologies. And there's many, many different ways to doing that. I mean, part of it we have as Salesforce for developing, we make sure that we bring in definitely diverse voices. And if we don't, when we have products, we will look at it and say, okay, what voice is missing here? Who do we need to talk to? How do we ensure? We developed an office of ethical and humane use to ensure that we have guidance and governance around our products, that we are making sure we are creating products that are not harming, but that are inclusive in all four fronts.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds great. And I know Mark Benioff has been a real champion of inclusivity, throughout Salesforce's, history. Desirée, yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, Leah, what were we going to say?
I was just saying, to cite some of the things we do. I mean, we have things like we host Build with Intention. It's workshops to help our tech and product teams to consider those unintended consequences. What would happen when building new products and features if you didn't have these diverse voices? And that it will workshop this. Who's in the room? Who's building these products? These are all important questions that we have to bring to the forefront before releasing a product out there, because you want to ask yourself those questions before your customers do.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that, agree 100%. And it's becoming, it is part of our product development, process. And, similar to Salesforce, Walmart does have, we have a huge, emphasis on diversity and inclusion. You have a digital governance council. We look at these critical questions. And making sure that, before we put anything out, do we making sure that we are bringing diverse perspectives to bear, and make in everything it is, that we do. And from my perspective, when I'm working with my teams, the same thing is asking those questions. Are we missing a perspective? Are there voices, that we need to bring to the table? Are there, asking different questions? When we're troubleshooting a problem around, is this, in terms of what the root cause is, and is there bias in terms of, the things that we're working through. So it's so critical, to make sure that we have this just becomes part of our development process. And I think this is what's new and what's exciting in terms of how we're, developing our products and thinking about things, and making diversity and inclusion, first and foremost, as part of our process. So.
Desirée, on that point, let's say, what would your advice be to a young Black woman who's interested in tech, who wants to get on board these emerging technologies? What would they need to do, let's say, to work with your company or to get their foot in the door? What would your advice be for them?
Yeah, one of the things that we're starting to work with, from a tech perspective, is really working with a number of different coding camps. I've worked with many of them in the past, and some of the best engineers that I've worked with have actually come from that. These are like 6-week coding camps that get you the basics. But the thing that makes it exciting is that you're getting people who have come from different backgrounds. They might have come from a music background, an art background. And if they get just a little bit of understanding of the coding under their belt, they make awesome engineers, because they're bringing in that another diverse perspective when it comes to building our products. So that would be my advice is it doesn't take much, but you can try some of the coding camps. There's lots of courses that are online, just to get your feet wet, just in terms of understanding the technology landscape. And then we within Walmart, we seek these things out. So we actually look, for these types of candidates, to bring on board, because we know that it's gonna, we're gonna create better products when we do that. Well.
Awesome. And Leah, what about, let's say there's a Black woman mid-career. She's like, I want to get into this emerging tech thing. What would you say to that woman?
There are so many different avenues out there to getting in. One, do your due diligence and research. Tech is a broad space. And, like I said, when I came through, it wasn't a whole lot of space. There wasn't no UX design or UA testing. There are so many different umbrellas of where you can go. And I think once you've done some research and have an idea of like, okay, I think I really want to go here, or I want to go, I want to become more in UX design, or I want to actually do more on processes and procedures and automation. I think you have to sort of first come to the table with a little bit of understanding. Now, for a mid-career person, they clearly have knowledge and experience in maybe a certain industry. So how can you leverage that knowledge and mix it with tech so that you're now a real powerhouse, right? So it could be, if you're coming from HR, these HR processes. What processes could be better served being automated? Okay, now you know what those processes are. What tools can you use to learn how to automate those processes? And that's when you get into some of those low code tools that we were talking about. Networking. like I said, I have an organization called Pathfinder where we do train mid-level, all kinds of people in the Salesforce ecosystem, train them to get a Salesforce certification and then place them at jobs. There are so many resources out there that are looking to bring people in and want to give away training. And there's so many free access. So I would say, do your due diligence, find out what part of the tech sphere do you want to be a part of, then identify people that are there. Reach out to them, network, find organizations. There are so many. There's like Black Women in STEM, Sisters in Tech. There are so many groups that you can be a part of and network with. I think that's key. Take advantage of all the great resources that are out there.
Leah,
just to add,
yeah,
sure. Add one thing, so that idea of figuring out what it is that you want to do, like a lot of companies, and Walmart does this, there you can do internships as well, even if you're mid-career. It'll give you a taste to actually find out, and get a sense of what something is like, and try them out. So sometimes you have to put your hands to it to understand, what's going to work for you. And a lot of companies, including Walmart, offer those sorts of opportunities as well.
That you just both gave so many great takeaways right there and then. The coding, networking, internships, all these great training programs like Salesforce offers. Right there is just such valuable information. And I want to thank Leah McGowen Hare from Salesforce and Desirée Gosby from Walmart for their amazing information today, and just like sharing their knowledge. And thank you so much for joining us.